one kind of a thing. Okay, what we're doing, what I'm doing here is I'm going to be talking about the stuff that's going on right now in politics, right? This very minute. I can answer questions by phone, or which the number is 432-231-1815, or on Periscope, because I'm also going to be broadcasting live on Periscope as I go along here today. Boy, okay, so what's happening in politics today? Not today, I mean like right this minute, right? Because that's what we're talking about. And I don't know, by the time you read that, you hear this, it may not be this minute anymore, because I do podcasts as well. But we've got some big stuff going on, and one is James Comey. James Comey's book is coming out. It's going to be released shortly, and people have been reading excerpts of it, and it's it's not neutral. He's talking about his feelings and stuff. It's really odd how one political party has decided to go to war on themselves. They're eating themselves alive. And what happened is, in Comey's book, he says some stuff, and I guess there's a 60-minute interview coming up, I think, this Sunday. And from what I understand, he says some stuff that people in the room were, I don't know, shocked is the word they used, but surprised, and they thought that people would be interested in it. And, Comey's not pulling any punches. He's a serious guy. He's a Republican. He worked for Republican and Democratic presidents. He's just a guy who spent his whole entire life investigating ne'er-do-wells, I guess, at the federal level. And before I go on too far, I should probably mention that he was the one that appointed the special counsel who eventually forwarded charges against Scooter Libby. And you'll hear that because Trump just pardoned Scooter Libby today. He just pardoned him officially today. Trump pardoned Scooter Libby. And Scooter Libby, what did he do, right? Scooter Libby was a guy who was like Dick Cheney's right-hand man guy. And what he did... what he did was, do cleanup for the vice president, who was Dick Cheney. Now, I don't know. Now I can go off down the who's that guy. If you don't know who he is, look him up, because it's really something. As vice president, basically, he sent us into Iraq, right? And he was in my opinion, the mastermind behind the whole thing. And it was something that happened. So Scooter Libby lied about, Cheney asked Scooter Libby to do some articles, to leak some information out to the press about Valerie Plame Wilson. Valerie Plame Wilson was married to Joe Wilson, who wrote an article in the Washington Post, a negative op-ed about the administration. And so what Cheney did was he instructed his staff to go leak the information that Joe Wilson's wife was Valerie Plame Wilson, who was an active undercover CIA operative at the time. She worked for the government, for the CIA, in an undercover capacity, and had been for many years. And what people do when they're in undercover agents for the CIA is they work assets, right? You find people, you turn people, you try to get more assets, information from people, and all that kind of stuff, right? So all those people, all those networks that she had worked to set up for all that time, all of a sudden, every single one of those people were in danger, and their families were in danger, and everyone around her was in danger, and her family was in danger. Why? Because all of a sudden, the world knows that she has been an active CIA asset for years. And so everyone who had done any business with her, or people that knew her, or people around her, I mean, you know what happens in the Middle East, and what seems to be what Trump wants to happen here. Anyway, she had to go, she had to be protected, right? And then all the people that she dealt with, there were, I'm sure there was plenty of people and money going around, trying to hide people and protect them from the repercussions. But the end of that story is that Scooter Libby lied about it. He was Dick Cheney's guy. He lied and said he did it, and he made a couple of lies. And what he really got in trouble for was lying about it to the FBI, and that's what really gets everyone, dude. Folks, don't lie to the FBI, because they probably already know the answers to the questions they're asking you. And that right there is the whole problem that Trump has, and the whole administration in a nutshell. But I digress, right? So Comey comes out and with this book, and there are some advanced copies floating around, and I'm sure someone has read it and told Trump some stuff that's in it. I'm also sure that Trump hasn't read it or held it in his hands, or could care less to do so. But someone around him, he's got some good political operatives around him, some sneaky, sleazy ones. He's got rid of a lot of the, the stand-up people. But obviously someone said, hey, you want to signal to all of your, all the people who have already testified and or will be testifying to Mueller, that don't worry, you can lie about it. You can lie all you want. I'll forgive you and I will pardon you. There is no better way to do it, really, in one fell swoop, than to let Scooter Libby out. Okay, Scooter Libby was sentenced and found guilty of lying to the FBI. Who else does that a lot? I mean, and he was a guy that covered up for the vice president and fell on his sword for the vice president. And that he likes. So someone said, hey, Comey got this guy thrown in jail for being a liar to the FBI. It would probably really irk him if you did this. And so Comey said he did this. And actually, boy, it would take me a couple of seconds to find the actual words. But what he said, I'm going to paraphrase. What Trump said was, well, I heard he got a bad rap, so I did the right thing. Okay, I'm going to type Trump bad rap here and see if I can get the exact terms. No, okay. Nothing's worse than dead air, so we won't be doing that now. So what did they do? So that's what's going on, okay? So that's one thing that's happening. That's one thing that's happening right now in the world. And in America, and, next door, pretty much. I'm trying to get on Pandora here. Okay. Sorry, folks. Give me 15 seconds of time. Starting... Yes, that was probably pretty rude of me, but no one's listening live, I don't believe, right now until I set up the Periscope thing here, which I'm doing. Okay. So we're going to get back. We're going to get back into business here in a few seconds. Okay. So we're gonna, boy, yeah. All right. Great about this. Let me mute this. Okay. Okay. Let's get back into the nitty gritty. My problem. Let me flip around the horoscope, the Periscope thing here, because there's a lag, and I can't see actual questions or anything that people might be saying or seeing. Yeah, that works well. Ta-da! Okay, folks, I'm back. Let's see. All the microphones are on. Yes. Okay, so I just talked about one thing, and that was that about the Scooter Libby pardon and why that was. And it is on... Oh, it's not on this on the Periscope feed, but you'll be able to find a link on my Twitter feed, which is the same, Prius James. Here's exactly what the president said after he pardoned Scooter Libby. He said, "I don't know Mr. Libby, but for years I've heard that he has been treated unfairly. Hopefully, this pardon will help rectify a very sad portion of his life." Close quote. I'm going to do this again. "I don't know Mr. Libby, ... That's where I'll start. So the president just pardoned someone today who he doesn't know. Whom he doesn't know. And he did it not because he knows him or what's going on, but because some political shenanigans have been transferred to him, most likely from Steve Bannon, and for sure by that ilk. And the message is that if you are in the government and you lie and cover up for something bad that your boss, the vice president, did, and he's the president, so of course if the vice president could get it done, then the president can. And who that was Cheney. And when Cheney outed Valerie Plame, had Scooter Libby leak stories and out Valerie Plame, who was an active CIA agent at the time, who had been that for quite some years. So she had a big network of assets, people that work with the CIA in different capacities, in different countries, in different, there's networks. These people work like really long and hard for networks, to build these networks. Now, okay, so a CIA agent has these networks built up, and along comes a couple of news stories that are printed that tell the whole world that you're an operative, that you work for the CIA. Now, everyone that you've worked with, starting with your family, if you've done some stuff that, outing you will really, upset some people, and we don't know one way or the other because it's all classified stuff. But outing someone is like this was really bad, and they out her. So she gets outed on the news. The news reporter guys eventually under oath say that they got the information from Scooter Libby. Scooter Libby says he didn't do anything. He doesn't know anything about it. Scooter Libby goes to jail for lying and saying he didn't know about it. Right? He didn't go to jail for the other thing so much. He went to jail for lying to the FBI. And James Comey is the FBI guy who assigned the special prosecutor, the special counsel, to look into the whole thing. So the only thing Trump cared about was he was poking Jim Comey in the eye. Think about that. That's all. He just sent a message to the whole world that the president of the United States doesn't care, and in fact prefers for people in his administration to be liars, and will cover for them and will pardon them, than anything else, because it is basically taking 100% of Trump's time and energy. People familiar with the people who work in the White House have been telling reporters they have long relationships with this morning that Trump is angry, he's disillusioned, he is angrier than they've ever seen him, and they can't even believe that someone can be that angry. Now, when someone sends a message out or says on the press or on Twitter or whatever, a reporter type person, when they say something like that and they say sources, they're talking about more than one person. And in many cases recently, they've been able to say things like 30 White House sources say ... So there's a lot more of 3 White House sources say, 2 White House, but these stories are corroborated, and and they're just not just made up. So all this stuff's going on, and Jim Comey, the FBI leader guy, releases a book, and the book has just basically tells kind of a straight shot his opinion of what happened and his feelings and his whatever. That I haven't read it. I've heard some excerpts read, and I've seen some tweets of sections read. But I'm just going to write to pardoning Scooter Libby was a big message in several ways, and Trump isn't smart enough to have thought of very many of them other than the how can I poke him in the eye. You probably hear birds. I'm actually sitting. Oh, there's a squirrel. I'm actually sitting here in Southern California, and I'm checking out the garden here. I sit over here with the garden. There's a squirrel kind of scrounging around. There's some cactus with flowers on it out there. It's a really nice view. Oh, could you even see anything? It's so bright. Okay, here we go. Oh, I scared him off. Okay. All right. Those people on the radio are going, what? Well, I'm on Periscope as well. And it's the same thing, Prius James with Periscope. So there's that. Let's put out the phone number, 432-231-1815. I'm also broadcasting live on YouTube. And that's being streamed. And again, Prius James is what's on all of these things. Now, the YouTube streaming doesn't really show what I'm doing or saying, but it just has some it does have a chat section, so I can keep an eye for that and make sure that I can see that here. Okay. The birds are so relaxing, aren't they? They're probably just bugging the heck out of you guys by the time that you hear this. So what else is happening in politics right this minute? Well, yesterday, Rosenstein, he's the guy that's in charge of the FBI now, because Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself because he lied to Congress about his contacts with Russia more than one time in more than one setting. He lied to Congress about meetings that Jeff Sessions himself, Sessions is lying to Congress about him meeting with Russian diplomats, quote unquote, right, with spy masters. And he lied to Congress before they went ahead and made him Attorney General anyhow. And Al Franken was big in some real serious stuff to get that out. The thing is, okay, so Rosenstein. Let me go back to Rosenstein. He was in the White House yesterday. Now we don't know why, but he was seen going into and then coming out of the White House later on. Afterward, and people saw it, the White House is like, well, it was a normal planned meeting, yada yada. But Rosenstein also went to Paul Ryan's office to plead with Paul Ryan not to let Devin Nunes send out that trumped up, hokey, crappy memo that he released. That the FBI asked him not to release it because it would put people in grave danger. They use that word, grave, danger. Now, that means something. Grave danger isn't imminent danger. It's close, but it's not kind of dangerous or something bad might happen. A grave danger means something to the FBI, and when they say that releasing the thing will be a grave danger, they went out of their way. The FBI to go meet, Rosenstein to go meet with Paul Ryan in his office to ask him, as the speaker, the person who is responsible for what everyone ever says and does in the house, and for how the house, for everything, basically. And so we don't know why he was there yesterday. The White House is saying that they're trying to build get some information from him. What's really probably happened? What is happening for sure that we know? We know that Trump is making phone calls to people to go on to Fox News and say certain things into the camera, telling him to do it. And this is what's been happening on Fox. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking to you, Mr. President. For the radio guys, I'm staring into the phone camera right now. And I'm talking to you, Mr. President. It is disgraceful. It's disgusting that what this Mueller is doing. It's you need to fire him. It would be ridiculous. Yada yada yada. Well, what he's doing, what Trump is doing, is calling people and telling them to go on the air and say this. I'm not making this up. It's all. Look, I'm not about telling people what to think, what to say, or what they're how they should think. I'm about asking you to go and look for stuff yourself. I'll give you some pointers and point you here and there. But that's about it, right? I mean, I'll answer questions and stuff like that because it's really important. But I'm not going to tell you how to think, okay? I'm going to point out stuff. That's what I do. I point out what's happening, and I'll answer questions about it. So, from the White House podium today, how long ago? Let's see. This would be 10 minutes ago. From the podium, Sarah Sanders tells the press not to cover Comey. This really happened moments ago, folks. This really just happened. Sarah Sanders from the White House podium tells the press not to cover Comey. Quote, he should be taken him off the air, unquote. That, I'm not sure if the quote I'm reading is incorrect or if Sarah Sanders didn't say the words right. What I am saying is it's probably 50-50 on that one. So, the White House doesn't know what he watches on TV or what he reads or what he says. He does know that, Sarah Sanders, so this is what's going on in real time right now. What else we got right here? Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen. That's a whole nother thing. Oh, lordy lord. I'm going to stick with, I'm going to do a different thing on Michael Cohen, right? I'll do that in a few moments. So, Trump. Well, Michael Cohen. Okay, we'll do a little bit of Michael Cohen. Just a little bit. He's been around Trump for a long time, and Trump has been in skeezy business deals in New York City for a long time. Decades. And Trump is a guy that understands how the mafia works. He knows because it's the way his family worked, and because it's the way that the people who he went into business with worked, because they're mafia people. In many cases. Many people are saying they're mafia people. They were. I'll fast forward, till a few years ago, and Australia refused to issue a gambling license to Donald Trump's business because of his shady ties to organized crime characters. Okay, that's just kind of proof of the pudding. Australia fixed that for us again. Australia is the one that told us that George Papadopoulos was bragging about Russia having the emails and giving to WikiLeaks and everyone in the Trump around the big Trump conference table that you've seen the photo of by now was all hunky dory and happy with the whole thing. But Cohen has been the fixer for decades. And he's fixed a lot of stuff, folks. He's fixed a lot of stuff. There's And, he has some records that I'm sure he's gone out of his way not to put in paper. He has records that he's put in paper that he probably wishes he hadn't. He has information about every business deal that Trump has probably ever been involved with, let alone and through the transition into presidency when the GOP was flowing a whole lot of cash into Trump's campaign. And I'm not saying these are connected, but the GOP was also getting a lot of money from the NRA, who just yesterday admitted that 23 Russian citizens or American Russian citizens have donated money to them last year, or in 2016. They got money from I'm sorry, maybe it was 2017. It was. Gosh, I hate to send you down the wrong track here, folks, but let's just say in the last year that that it's gone unchecked. Oh, I stand back and while I want to talk about one thing and discuss one thing, like 3 other things happen in real time. So Cohen knows all the stuff. He's got all the skeletons in his closet. He's helped the deals. He's the guy that, like a half a week before the election, paid off Stormy Daniels with $130,000 that he set up he actually set up a corporation in Delaware specifically for the purpose of paying off Stormy Daniels, and he put money in it. And Delaware corporations are notorious for their tax leniency, and he paid that extortion or payoff to make something go away. Catch and kill is what. Yes, I have a cat. Where are you, dude? Catch and kill is what the new the press calls it, when you purposely buy a story or blackmail someone into giving you the story or whatever the case may be, and you just throw it away and kill it, and you have the rights to it, so you can keep anyone else from doing it too. You may have heard about that, maybe not. It's worth looking into if you haven't. So Cohen also was involved through the transition and was involved with the GOP stuff. Like I said, they're legal matters. And a Wall Street Journal just reported that Cohen negotiated a deal in late 2017 to pay $1.6 million to a former Playboy model who said she was impregnated by Elliot Broidy. Now, we'll get into Elliot Broidy today or some other time, but his name's coming up a lot lately. He's a top Republican fundraiser who's real close to the president. And he was the assistant finance manager, director, or whatever they call it, for the GOP. So, that's bad enough, but there was apparently an abortion facilitated. So, apparently, it's been reported that Michael Cohen facilitated, paid for, and covered up an abortion for a man named for someone impregnated by a man named Elliot Broidy, who is a real close guy to the president. He's a fundraiser guy, right? Okay, so that was a few months ago. A lot of other stuff happened in between. I mean, Mike Pence was in charge of the transition, and no, it was Jeff Sessions. They're both little weird men with buggy eyes. Jeff Sessions was in charge of the whole transition. He's lied lots of times to Congress about contacts with Russia during that period. George Papadopoulos, who you've seen photos of or can easily find a photo of, sitting around a conference table with President Trump, Jeff Sessions, and a whole bunch of other real interesting people to be, that have since denied knowing Trump, or Trump's denied knowing them. But it's the same thing. Okay, so George Papadopoulos, and he was part of he was sent. He was part of the whole thing. But all this stuff was happening. Carter Page apparently was. I've read through sources that have been that have proven to be very, very accurate in recent past. I mean, old stories have all been fruiting out now. And I lost my train of thought, folks, because I looked at the screen and it's the Twitter machine that happens to be up, and the Twitter machine right now is, just saying more and more crazy stuff every 5 minutes. Okay, so we're covering up. We've got Carter Page, who sources say sent an audio tape and or videotape of I heard it was an audio tape of Donald Trump promising to wash one hand washes the other with Putin, and Carter Page was told to go get that tape to Putin and sold it around, and shopped it around, and then he was and so. There was that part of the campaign going on. And then there was the George Papadopoulos working behind the scenes to set up meetings in different islands with different people who have since both lied and then had to tell the truth about they were at that meeting and what it was for. Eric Prince is one of those people. He's the Blackwater guy that believes that Iraq and the Middle East right now is a war of Christians versus Muslims, and he is the Blackwater guy who did all kinds of black ops, wet work contract stuff for Dick Cheney and George Bush. So that was going on, and all this stuff goes on, and who's in the middle of it all is Michael Cohen, and his hard drives, his computers. Without any chance to clean that stuff up, there's going to be a lot of stuff there, folks. And here's another bonus. We just learned that Michael Cohen has a tendency to tape record his meetings. He had a tape recorder going when people come into his office to talk to him, and it was known. People would jest about it or would warn him before they went into meetings with him. Hey, don't forget he's got a tape recorder. Okay, so Lordy, he has tapes. Lordy, there are tapes? Yeah, and this is what happens with a guy like Trump that projects everything that he is, all the horrors that he is and loves and wants is what he projects on other people. So his tapes thing, it's other people that have tapes on him and on different things, and that's what he's about. Michael Cohen. So Fox News is going hog wild. The president, oh man, he was really mad. I was watching it live while he was doing it for the first time, sitting around the table. His arms were all crossed, and he was all pursed lipped and darker orange than usual. And he was all, I just heard they broke into my attorney's office. Well, they had a warrant, and warrants for attorneys are really hard to get. Judges and attorneys and prosecutors don't like to issue search warrants against attorneys. It's not a good fit. They work together. This just isn't something you're supposed to do. Unless it's really bad. It's got to be bad because it's never happened. It's never happened before. It's never in 200 plus years happened before. A lot of stuff fits that category, right? So they have to take it to a federal. They have to take it to a federal judge, and the federal judge has to believe they have they're going to substantially get information, and that there's a big chance the information will be destroyed if they give notice before they do this no-knock search warrant. And that's what happened. That's what they're issued. Then they had to get approval from the Department of Justice. They had to get Jeff Sessions' approval. They had to get Rosenstein's approval. I believe it's Rosenstein. They had to get his approval, and literally he had to sign off on it before they would move forward with it. So they know. It's all there. The only secrets are the secrets that we don't know. And Cohen knows them all. And so what's happening is Cohen's hard drives and his thumb drives and his whatever drives have all been confiscated. So what else about Cohen? So I'm just kind of talking about Cohen Trump, but he does other stuff, right? He's a wheeler dealer businessman. He's an up and comer. He's a mover and a shaker. He owns taxi medallions in New York City. I don't know if you haven't been paying attention or haven't been around long enough to know, taxi business in New York City before Uber and Lyft was like dog eat dog, mob infested dog eat dog stuff. Taxi medallions were worth a lot of money, and a lot of shady business was done around them. About the time Uber and Lyft started kicking in, I think that a medallion in New York City was worth about $1 million, and I think now it's worth a lot less than that. But I'm not exaggerating. I think that I believe that a taxi medallion in New York City before Lyft and Uber came along were worth $1 million a piece, and he has more than one. They're not easy to get either. Not everyone can just pop up $1 million and buy one. There's a bunch of political stuff that goes on. And the thing about I'm just going to go right here and say that was another item on the search warrants. They're not just looking for backup information about the payoffs that Cohen has made on Trump and maybe other people's behalf to catch and kill stories that are really important, that really, people should know about, I guess, basically. He's their catch and kill guy. And he's been dealing with taxi cab companies, right? Because he's got taxi medallions. Apparently he's taken a bunch of loans out against these taxi medallions, and I'm guessing they're questionable loans for way more than they're worth, through some kind of Russian money laundering facilitation, because that's what is in there. That's another thing they're looking for. They want to find out when he made payments to whom, woman-wise, and whether there were illegal conditions around that. They're looking for stuff regarding his taxi medallions and his taxi business. We know, and if you don't know, the taxi business in the big cities, and in New York City in particular, is mob city. I mean, it's mobs and guys that aren't in the mob that happen to have a medallion and do their driving and hope that no one kills them and they can just make a nice living. I mean, I think that's pretty much where they fall. So there's so the mafia, and when I'm talking about the mafia, you might, if you're old like me, you might think about Italians and La Cosa Nostra, are this thing of ours. And the Italians, there was La Cosa Nostra, it was our thing. And when the Italians talked about La Cosa Nostra or our thing, they would refer to, I mean, they pretty much applied that to everything in their lives. And it went to people too. And if you were one of our people, you were part of our thing. And if not, you're your people. And you'll hear people refer to your people doing this and our people doing this. And it is a very Don-like thing to do. From what I understand, James Comey's book touches on this somewhat as well. But sometime in the 90s, the Russians took over the mafia, and the Russian mafia is who's been operating since. Pretty much since Donald Trump has been in the casino business, the Russians have been muscling their way in. He's their guy, folks. He is their guy. He has been for a very long time, and Cohen has been the lawyer for this for a very long time, and he's involved with the New York taxi business and banks that loan money on things that are loaning way too much money for the things that aren't worth anywhere near as much. And for what else was on his? There were 4 big points on Mueller's stuff so far. What he was looking for: payoffs to the women, which I think, by the way, is going to end up with not. So now apparently there are stories of children, of Trump illegitimate children, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing led to some pregnancy terminations that Trump was involved with. We already know that Michael Cohen, the lawyer, was involved with paying off pregnancy terminations for the guy that was the vice chair of the GOP Financial Committee. His name's I'm drawing a blank on right this second, because I'm thinking of names over the last 24 hours, not the names that are happening this 24 hours. Okay, who else? So they're looking for the taxi medallion stuff. They're looking for campaign finance contributions to the RNC, the Republican National Convention, and the GOP, the Republican Party. Think about it. And I'm not, this stuff, I don't say it lightly. I don't think this is fun or funny. It's important we get to some reality here about who's doing what and where. So that was so the third one, right? Okay, I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna pop through them again because I don't have anything written down, folks. I'm just winging it. I just wing this whole thing based on where the information flows, while I'm looking out at the squirrels in the garden and the birds. Okay, so we got the Mafia Connect, we got the bank loans, we got the banks, we got the GOP money thing is where I was, right? The GOP, the GOP got a lot of money from the NRA, and the NRA got a lot of money from Putin and the oligarchs. And you'll hear about these oligarchs. And what's an oligarch? Well, an oligarch is someone that has way too much money and control compared to everyone else, and they live the same way and unabashedly and unashamedly, I guess, and they like funding stuff that matters to them and funding stuff that terminates everything that doesn't matter to them, kind of, right? So I mean, Trump is an oligarch, is an American oligarch, basically, except that he doesn't really have the billions of dollars to back it up, right? So there's that part. They're looking into the money, and the money thing. Who was the chair of who was the Speaker of the House and the chair of I'll just go Speaker of the House because I'm going to stick to Ryan here. Who was the Speaker of the House while this transition was happening? While all this money was coming in, GOP got a lot of money. They got a lot of money from the NRA. The NRA got a lot of money from Russia. Until yesterday, they said they might have one person that they got money from. But now today we know that there were at least 23 that they're admitting to, right? So, and I'd be really, really shocked if most of those weren't oligarchs type Russian money. Some of these are Russian Americans, I believe. But who does Russia give money like that to, right? So there's that side, the GOP, Russia giving a lot of money to the NRA giving a lot of money to Congress in a lot of different ways. And for Trump's campaign alone, the NRA gave $31 million for Trump in his campaign, right? So the NRA passed along $31 million. Where did that money come from? We don't know. I don't know. I do know that they got a lot of money for Russians. They were lying about until yesterday or until today, this morning. I know that much. And what was the fourth point that was pertinent here? We have the payoffs to women and non-disclosure agreements and cover-ups. We have that includes covering up for abortions now too. I'm not saying that Trump has anything to do with any of that yet, but the finance director or assistant finance director of the GOP and RNC, he does, right? He does. And here's the other thing: people are pleading guilty all over. They're pleading guilty. They're making plea deals, and about the whole Russia thing and everything. And the Congress and the president are still pretending like this doesn't exist. Okay, we got people who are in jail right now. We got people who are indicted right now. We got people who've already pled guilty, half a dozen almost. Top officials and couriers who are involved with the transfer of information have already pleaded guilty. They've already admitted. They've said it. They're not, that this isn't a question of what happened. It's a question of whether you value truth and facts or not. And with that, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about truth and facts. Okay, I just looked at my Twitter feed. Joy Reid reporting a GOP source to her just now, and these people's sources are solid. They've known them for a long time. They've been through this and that together. The news people and the people who work in the government and the people who work in politics all have behind the scenes friendlier relationships than you see, and that's just because that's how it has to work. So Joy Reid just tweeted that the quote, "The Libya pardon is aimed at Manafort," close quote. So that's to tell Paul Manafort, who is the one that hasn't flipped yet. He's one of two who haven't flipped yet. So this is a GOP source that's probably someone high in the White House or high in the political party. It's not just some yahoo, I guarantee you. And if you want to know more about Joy Reid, check out her show on Saturday and Sunday mornings from 7 to 10 their time. It's no, that's not my time. I don't know. It's on from 7 to 10 here. It's 10 to 1 there. Anyways, both days, and it's just she just really gets down to the brass tacks and doesn't let people stray off into weird spaces, and that's really something I know about her. So I give more weight to what she reports and says and tweets than to a lot of other people, and that's what you have to do when you're dealing with social media. And it's big. I was going to talk about science and facts, but all I guess I really have to say about science and facts is apply them liberally. And if anyone tells you things that just don't sound right, do some quick research and check it out, folks. Okay, so what's going to happen here is Nicole Wallace's show is about to come on. And Nicole Wallace, along with Joy Reid, are two people on the MSNBC lineup that don't really take a lot of crap from the people, and they're I can't say, I don't think Joy's a Republican. Not that it matters. I don't care about parties, but I know that Nicole Wallace is a Republican and was the spokesperson or head of communications for the George W. Bush White House, and she's a respected Republican who is just being real, and the people on her show are like that. So I'd recommend her show, more than mine. I'm gonna sign off here pretty quickly, and I'll be back later today on some other subject. Thanks, and we'll hear you soon.